What's up and welcome back to the channel. I'm 𝘾𝙤𝙡𝙚𝙢𝙖𝙣, contemporary romance writer, and happy Valentine's Day. Today we're going to get into a romance writer reader tag. We're going to do some inspiration discussion and round things out with the work in progress. So this tag I actually found like scouring the YouTube and internet streets. I'll have to look through my notes, but it was pretty much a either or, this or that romance tag. I want to say this was initially set up for readers, but heck, I read and write both, both read and write and romance. So we're gonna go through it, and there's a pretty lengthy list here, but it's just I guess which one do you prefer? Okay, so we'll start off with cliffhangers or happily ever after. Really, for me, I can take both. I don't mind a series. A one and done is always good, a happily ever after. I don't know. See, the nerd part of me always wants more from whatever universe I'm consuming. And so I may have to, I'll probably have to go with cliffhanger for this one because I love to get different installments, even if it's from a different character's point of view. So I'm going to final answer cliffhanger. Hardcover or paperback? Okay, that's tricky. So I like them both. And of course, hardcovers are beautiful displayed on shelves, but there's something about a paperback that's been beat up and thrown around, shoved in a purse, book bag, in a desk. Even when it's pristine, it's just something about that. I love me a paperback, and it's so I like them both, but I probably have to say paperback to be more practical. Like, yeah, you can take a hardback anywhere and everywhere you can a paperback, but again, just shoving it in a bag and being on about your way, public transportation, on an airplane or whatever, I'd have to go with paperback if I have to choose. Let's see, angsty or cutesy? I'm all about the angst. Give me uncomfortable levels of angst. Give me anxiety, give me angst, give me that awkwardness, give me it all. I run the entire gambit. Now, I like cutesy as well, but angst would have to win out. I don't know, it's more me. It speaks to me. And I consumed a lot of, well, one book in particular, and this isn't even a novel, this is a comic book, and there's two of them actually. It is Generation X, which was a comic book by Marvel, and that came out in 1994. It's like an X-Men adjacent book. And then there's also Deadly Class, which I think came out, if I'm not mistaken, 2014, maybe a little earlier. But that they both had TV adaptations. Generation X was in the 90s. Deadly Class was, I think, 2016. I'm probably getting these years wrong, but there are two stories about kids right on the cusp of the 80s and 90s, and that grunge 80s hip hop underclass subculture aesthetic, and they are full of angst. They even kind of switch over to the, I guess, preppy of the time, conforming space, whatever. But all in all, like that, reading that growing up, in addition to, like, of course, books and movies and stuff, I'd have to go with angst all day, every day. So what's next? Emotional or rom-com? That really depends on which mood I'm in. But again, having to choose one, I'd probably go with emotional. Like, give me the drama. Drag my emotions across a bed of hot coals. Make me cry. Make me cry. Get me in my feelings. Make me relive old heartbreaks from way back in elementary school. I want the drama. That is what I live for the drama. So I'd have to go with emotional. Yeah. I remember watching This Is Us for the first time and hearing so many people discussing how, oh, it pulls at your heartstrings, this and that, and I don't cry easy. I can get in my feelings, the book is good enough, but I don't cry easy. So when I watched it, it was like, I was having a competition with myself to like prove it, like, oh, I could take this. And I will say I don't recall crying at all, but I remember being pushed to the edge. So yeah, give me the drama over a rom-com. Emotions. Let's see, book talk or bookstagram. I'd have to say book talk. Instagram for me, I don't know. It's not something that I don't keep up with it like I probably should. I'm there, kind of floating around, but book talk is for me. Book talk is for me. Swiping, talking mess, finding new regs, having discussions and comments. Like I say book talk for sure. Let's see, people or object covers. That's a good one too. So I prefer people, I think, but I don't. See, it depends because even if, okay, so we're talking romance. I like both, and I like both when they're done well, and I like people, but I like the objects because I love for you to give me something on the cover that plays a big part in the book. So, for example, I don't know, there's a story about a girl and a guy meeting and falling in love on a orange farm. Like, give me the cover, but give me a little orange right there in the dead center with like the ring that he proposes with, which was his great grandmother's heirloom. Like, I like that. So as much as I do like people, I think because you get into that realism or photo, like actual photo, and then you also have those like clip art looking people, I'd probably have to go with objects instead. But see, I don't know, because I like a good, oh, this should not be that difficult. I'm gonna go with people. Forget that. Final answer, people. Give me some people. That's gonna be my final answer, people. Okay, let's see. New releases or backlist. Oh Lord. I guess a mix of both because that's what I have. I love me a good new release, but like there's so many books. No one will ever read them all. Even if you're a mortal or you're a vampire or you are dream the endless and you live forever, you are not going to read each and every single book. So maybe I'll go with backlist. I'll go with backlist because with the new release, it'll eventually be the backlist. So I'll go with backlist. Let's see. TBR or free for all? Free for all. I have a list, and every year or every couple months really I do this. I'm like, okay, these are the 4 or 5 books I want to read. I'm going to get through. Bruh, I am still powering through some books that I started back in 2021. And it's not even that the books aren't good or interesting. It's just life. And then other stuff pop up. Like, I had a book I started, and I think 2 books came out since then. And I went through and read those like it was nothing. And still have yet to return to the original one. But, like, I'll get there eventually. So free for all. Let's see. Open Door, Fade to Black. Give me some Open Door. Describe it to me. I want the smut. I want it all. Like, even if it's, I guess for me, I would prefer description because I like to see how other people's minds work. So if you're a writer and you're writing about, I don't know, a basketball player and, I don't know, a music teacher, like, their occupations may not influence the way you write them in the bed, but it may very well, so I want to see what is that. Give me description, give me all of that imagination, pour it right into that bedroom scene and knock it out. And I could do Fade to Black. It doesn't bother me. I could take either one, but I would prefer to get all the description. I just like that. I like to see how do people's mind work, especially with something like sex scenes, mainly because this is something that, depending on who you ask, is very personal, very intimate. And so, scratch that. I would just say, point blank period, give me description. Let it all hang out. Let's discuss. Let's have a conversation. Give me that. Let's see, audiobooks or ebooks / paperbacks. I would lean more towards audiobooks. And that's just because work and life and things, like, because the world is so hectic, even with the big C looming over us every single day. Like, life is still constantly going between work, kids, families, writing, hobbies, social life. I think audiobooks is easier. But then I also come from a podcasting background where, like, that's what I'd done for like 8 years. Still doing it, by the way. And so I think that I'm already conditioned, I'm primed to consume an audiobook because I spent so many years, even before getting into podcasting myself, consuming podcasts. So if I have to choose, I'd have to say audiobooks. Kindle or nah. So I have a Kindle, but I'm gonna go with nah, because I don't use, no. I'm gonna just nah. Buddy read or fly solo. I'm flying solo. I have not buddy read anything in a while. Like, I think the closest I've come to it is with my aunt. We used to share books back and forth when I was much younger. She'd read one, pass me, and vice versa and whatnot. That's the closest I've come to a buddy read in probably decades. So me, I'm flying solo. Well, mm, yeah, because I think flying solo for me outweighs the buddy stuff. Because even with my other podcasts and when I'm guesting on other folks' show, sometimes I am asked to read something, be it a book, be it a few articles, be it a novella or whatever. But I've flown solo much more frequently than I have buddy read. So I'll go flying solo. Um, Small town or dark romance? Ooh. I probably have to go with dark romance, mainly because I'm drawn to more urban metropolitan settings and books. I don't mind a small town. Look, I grew up watching those Lifetime movies that had to have taken, like, I don't know, 3 days tops to make, where the girl goes back home from the big city to get a recipe or to get back in touch with her roots and fall in love with the boy next door who still lives there and owns a farm and chops wood. Like that. I know those movies like the back of my hand. And I will read those stories, but for me, I'd have to go with dark romance, just to, not that it can't be set in a small town, but just to get that more city urban space that I prefer. New adult or adult? I'll go with adult, though I have quite a few manuscripts that would be considered new adult. And I think that's a space that I write in quite frequently, even if all my characters aren't new adult age. There's 3 books right now that are either finished or in the process of being finished that I can think of that are new adult. So I'll go with new adult. New adult. Sprint read or marathon read a series. So this one really does vary, because I like being immersed in a particular world, much like we read. That's get that escape. I would say marathon. I want to take my time. I'm going to take my time and soak it all in. I know that's partially why I know a lot of people prefer for a series to be done before they start it. But for me, with a book, I don't really care with a novel. But on the flip side, when it comes to a comic book, because they come out so frequently, I like, if a book is like a 6-issue run, I could probably pick it up every week, or I'll wait for the trade. But if it is an ongoing, I want to be there, right there. I want to be in the conversation with everybody. So if it's constantly going at least 24, 36 months, I'm reading it with everybody else. But if it is a limited series, I'll catch up on the trade. But on the same token, with an ongoing series, if I'm behind, I'm quick to collect the trades. Just like peruse them at my leisure. So I'm going to go with marathon. I want to take my time, get lost in the world, make sure I'm familiar with the people, descriptions, names, and all that, so that when something does come up in a later book, I can be like, oh yeah, that, she took the watch from her uncle in book 1, and then the uncle is revealed to be a thief. I like to put those pieces together. So yeah, marathon. Let's see, alpha or sweetheart hero? I don't know, really. I don't really have a preference. I don't care. I think as long as the story is done well, I don't think I really have, maybe Elf? I don't know. Sweetheart? Truly, it depends on the story. You have to sell me. I think that's what it is. If you can convince me that if it's believable, then I'm with it. I'm all for it. Even if there's some things that might be cringe or I might not like, I'm like, oh, what is this? But if you can sell me on this character, on this person and their motivations and that they're acting in line with what you've already established, then I really don't care either way. Yeah, I really don't care. Let's see, read multiple books or one at a time. Reading multiple, because I could be in the mood, maybe I'm a mood reader. I could be in the mood to read about vampires storming a castle all day long. And then learn about some African American dark academia style story. And then I just picked it up in the middle of my vampire run and finished that and then get back to it. So I'd have to say multiple books. Multiple. Let's see, baddie or damsel in distress. Ooh. Okay, probably baddie, only because I don't, damsel in distress doesn't really do it for me. Let me do it for you. It doesn't really do it for me. I think that can be done well as well, but over the two, yeah, I'd have to go with baddie. I would much rather you be like extremely confident and that be borderline annoying than to get a damsel in distress. I don't like that constant need of saving in the way that I've read it in the past. I'm sure there are some books that knock it out the park. Slow burn or insta love. I like them both. I like them both for different reasons. So I like the slow burn because it's leading up, we're building up to it. We watch this journey, whether it be enemies to lovers, whether it be some friends, best friend lovers, or a couple strangers that meet and eventually get into it and get deep into the sheets. But I also like instant love because I like the idea that you can meet someone and within an hour or a day or a week or whatever, you're instantly drawn to them and you know this is what you want. Even if it blows up in your face later or if it is a happily ever after. So that would be difficult. I guess a slow burn would lend itself to, I don't know. Well, okay. I'll go with slow burn. I like them both, like a lot, a whole lot. And I would say slow burn would win out just because I think I've read more slow burn that was done well versus insta love. I think insta love, well, both of them you can really fumble the bag, but I think with some insta love that I've read, it hasn't been done as well, I think. Or it's almost like, well, what is this, makes no sense. Like, yes, they're in love and they like each other right away, but like, sell me on it, make it make sense, make me be like, okay, that ain't for me, but I could definitely see how they got to this point. So yeah, I'd have to go with slow burn. Oof, that was that was heavier than I thought. Okay, so now getting into some of my inspiration for some of my stories and the work that I've written in the past, my current works in progress, and stuff that I have planned for the future. With my inspiration, so I love contemporary stories. I love stories that are set in the now where someone has crafted this large world that is pretty much our own with these minor differences. I really like the idea of taking a real world, space, place, events, and the like, and then changing them some. So like if you, I don't know, have a story set in New York, but you create a whole new borough, or you make a fake neighborhood, or you make a fake city, or a fake high school, or whatever. Like I like that because I don't know, it's comforting, and I like fantasy and paranormal and all that as well, but contemporary really does it for me. And I like seeing so many different people's interpretations of things. Like you can give 4 people the same prompt, make me a fake high school, give me 5 popular kids, and make a tornado hit the city, and I want you to write it within the week of homecoming. That's where it's set. And you're going to get vastly different stories. And it's like, that is so exciting to me. So that's that's where I have been writing for a very long time. And then also soap operas. So I was one of those kids who used to sit up with their grandmother and watch soap operas. And soap operas was such an interesting thing to me because I know that I'm watching a show, but I remember me as a kid trying to wrap my head around this not being like, let's say, Martin or Living Single or New York Undercover, where it's one and done, or maybe one to be continued. This is like you're living your life alongside these people. You're looking into their life after you get home from school and work and whatever else. And so I've always been interested in that long form storytelling between like growing up reading comic books, still reading them to this day, and soap operas, and they're pretty much one and the same. Soap operas are comic books on TV, and comic books are soap operas in book form. Like, that's all it is. And so a lot of the Days of Our Lives, General Hospital, Passions, you name it, beans, greens, tomatoes, potatoes, all of those, Melrose Place, the New York Undercover, though that wasn't a soap opera, but the dramas, the primetime dramas, all of that spoke to me. That's something that I clicked with, and it could just be my surroundings. Like, a lot of the adults in my life were watching those shows. It was water cooler talk for the kids getting to school the following day. So that more than likely fed, or was like my first taste of this like writing inspiration. And of course, movies and whatnot, movies, indie movies. I really enjoy bad movies. I do. When I say bad, movies that aren't the greatest, maybe don't have the greatest acting, maybe don't have the best scripts or none of that, because I feel like with that, you being the creative team behind it, have put this thing together. And it may be objectively bad or subjectively bad, but it's something that you put together. And though it may not be box office, Hollywood, top tier, A-list, whatever, it's still a project that you put together. I also love indie stuff. The movie Tangerine, when I learned that that was shot on an iPhone, I already enjoyed the movie, but like that little bit of information blew my mind. I was like, yes. And I like that indie space when you are so determined to get a story out that you're using an iPhone, that you're renting equipment, that you're getting your friends together who may not be actors or great actors, and you're making sure that you're telling this story. And so that's been a lot of my inspiration, is just being in that art space forever and a day, like from childhood to right now and then some. I've always been surrounded with artists, musicians, sketch painters, spoken word, everything. I've been surrounded with that my entire life. And so a lot of that, of course, you pull from your own experiences when you're creating stories, even if they're, I don't know, fantasy, paranormal, space, you still are pulling from all the stories that has been poured into you before. And that, I'm telling you, my inspiration. But to be specific, I think I'd have to go with those 90s TV shows and movies. Living Single, Melrose Place, I mentioned that. Martin, like those. And then you got like your Jason lyrics, your What's Love Got to Do With It, your just 90s black movies and TV. That UPN, early WB, VHS, like I love all of that. The aesthetics, the dramas, the conversations, all of it. So that's where a lot of my inspiration comes from. And I think it shows very clearly in my writing. I have one series that may never see the light of day, but even with that, I wrote a character who visually pulled a lot from a very specific movie, like just that one character. And looking back on it, I love that. And I think I lifted her and put her somewhere else, but the series itself may never come out. But that's inspiration, is art. It's growing up around art. It's growing up in a space where Blackness was constantly celebrated. And it made it easy for me to write these stories. It made it natural, make it second nature to write the stories that I liked about the people who I saw on an everyday basis day in and day out. And I think growing up in a space where we had a lot of Black folks on television in different shows, different genres, just being immersed in that and coming out on the other side where, you know, representation is not what it used to be and what it should be now. But coming out on the other side, that really influenced a lot of my writing. So that's what you're going to get from a story of mine. So with my current work in progress, Project 𝘾𝙤𝙦, it went from a cast of like 8 or 12 folks down to 3, and it's following 3 siblings back home for the holidays after being off at college for the first year and dealing with romantic issues, both past and present, and kind of becoming different people behind this romantic adventure over the course of like 9 days. And I've been having a blast writing this. I think at the time of this recording, I'm at the very end of the book. I am wrapping things up. At the time the video goes up, not entirely certain, but I'm enjoying this series. I'm enjoying the characters, living in that world, writing these scenes, getting more familiar with the other folks in this world, contemplating different maybe spin-offs or different installments. Like, I really truly enjoy this series, and writing a multi cast romance holiday novel with tropes galore, enemies to lovers and forced proximity and miscommunication and all that good stuff. I've been having the time of my life, and I cannot wait for you all to read this. I cannot wait to go through, get a second and third pass at it, because I'm being more intentional this year. I've decided to let these insecurities that I may have about writing or about my process, let them go and fight them head on. I have a video discussing my insecurities as a writer and using your resources. That video explained my entire process when it comes to something that I am insecure about when it comes to my writing. And it doesn't just apply to writing, it could apply to any other space, point, part in your life that you maybe aren't as confident with. So be sure to check out that video, and I'll see you guys next time.